everybody, and welcome to a lovely night up. We got to add Mr. Perry Galloway. How's everybody doing tonight?
Last name Jordan, first name.
Doing pretty good. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Well, y'all aren't
Well,
gonna believe this. I am at the hospital at ER with a friend, and they're under lockdown, so I can't go outside and do this. So I'm actually in the emergency room uh, conducting this. It
all
never.
right.
I'm full of
Hold on.
surprises.
You have had an interesting week. You guys are on lockdown.
For some reason, I'm in here with my friend, and it's okay. But I told him I'm gonna go outside and do this social media thing, and they stopped me at the door and said, "We're under lockdown. You can't leave for a trauma, whatever that means." I have no idea. So I'm standing in the hallway by the restroom in the ER department at UAMS in Little Rock, Arkansas, doing this. So, what can I help you with tonight? I understand we're going to talk about cotton, maybe.
We're going to talk about cotton. Well, first off, you've had a wet week, have you not?
Sorry. You know, that's debatable. 13 to 16 inches is the two numbers that stick out. So, yeah, we're pretty wet.
Well, isn't cotton a good way to gamble $600 to $800 an acre, Perry?
We'll try 900 or 1,000, maybe.
Woo!
Yeah.
Well, guys,
maybe 800.
Let's hope this coming year makes a few changes over last year, and we actually do see a little bit better than what we have right now.
It's going to take a lot of changes, isn't it?
I'm gonna tell you what. Besides the weather and the changes, I'm not sure where we are this right now. We had that conversation. In fact, Russell and I were talking about that today.
Yeah.
And here I'm texting now. You think you got a bad day? I'm texting China.
Oh.
And that we're going through a few language differences.
What are you texting? What's the subject?
It's one of my suppliers that I have to get from, and today's trade war conversations have been interesting.
I bet.
So
what about the price of drones, Russell?
There's a pretty good quantity in the U.S. that came in before the huge hike. I think you're going to see supply tighten up. I think if there are some options that are non-Chinese that will be in the country in a very short time frame. So
that aren't affected.
That aren't affected. So it's going to be hit or miss. It depends on how many farmers want to buy some this year as to where I think you see supply and demand go. So, but
that needs to be the wild card. If we can talk about that for a second, drones are more and more farmers are wanting drones, but with the state of the economy, how many farmers are going to actually act on that? You got an opinion?
I think more now than ever because I think farmers are looking at the economics of I can operate a drone for so much less. The capital investment is so much less. The interest rate on that capital investment is so much less. When you look at, a drone's not going to cover the same amount of acres in a day as an airplane does. I know me and you've talked about that.
Yeah.
But when you can put two or three of them up in a field for under 100,000 or 150,000, and an airplane's what, over $1 million?
Over 2 million, but
well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, when three drones can cover the same amount of acreage in a day as an airplane can,
I'm not. That's not accurate.
what? How many acres a day do planes get?
On a spray job, I'd say minimum 2,500.
Okay, well, it takes
But
six
I mean,
drones.
the math still works out. But I mean, there's more to it than just buying a drone. You got to, go through the compliance part of it. And you've got some other issues, and your time's worth something, and the support equipment. But and I'm not saying that drones don't have a place, but to say that two or three drones swarming in one field are going to replace an airplane. That's a pretty big stretch.
Well, it might not. It might not replace it on number of acres, but I mean, I think there's been 3 universities. I think there's 2 more universities this year, and even some private companies that the efficiency of the product that we're using is better in a drone than it is what we. And I'm not saying all
Well,
planes. I think it depends on the
now,
pilot.
but now here's one thing I'll say about that. There's a lot of areas. Now we're lucky to have 2 planes where we are, but in Northwest Georgia, they have no planes within 500 miles, 400 miles of where they're at.
Yeah, well, I
And that's
agree. They definitely have a place. Don't misunderstand me. They've got a place, but I don't know that the question I asked about the how many drones are going to be sold this year is basically what I was asking.
I
Was
think if
answered
they're
correctly with, well, they're going to replace a $2 million airplane. I don't see that. Now, are they more efficient in probably a smaller field, a 30 or 40 acre field? Probably so.
I
Uh,
think I think so. I understand what you're asking now. I don't think we're going to see any sales lower this year on drones than we did in previous years if they're available.
oh, I don't either.
I,
I just wonder how many is every 1,500 acre plus farmer going to want a drone and think they can justify it? I don't
Well,
know. That was kind of my
that's a
question.
hard that's a hard thing to do because number one, there's a lot of farmers that can barely operate GPS.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that may be something that I guess as agriculture as a whole, as we've talked about, is there are people that have kids, and I'll give you an example. There is a friend of mine. His son wanted to come back to the farm. He bought 4 drones last week. His son don't want to ride in a tractor or be in a sprayer. They bought 4 drones. They're going to run 4 drones, and he's going to manage a drone fleet. They hired 2 other kids his age, 25 to 27 out of college. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you see the younger generation that essentially wants to play a video game with a drone in a cornfield. Um, and I think that you see that popping up a lot this year because that's the conferences I
Just
went
because
to all
you can
winter.
hold on, just because you can fly a drone doesn't make you a qualified operator. I mean, there's a lot to this now. When you're talking about the chemicals and et cetera, just because you can play a video game. Hold on one second. I may have to go back and. Did they just call us back? All right, I'm gonna I'll stay on for a few more minutes. Uh, there's more to this than playing a video game.
I agree with you, but that's what you're looking at. You're looking at this younger generation that they're going to be buying drones. They're going to be testing it out. I think they might offer a discount for the learning phase, and you may see some streaked up fields. But I think you're going to see a lot of that.
Now I'll tell you what, we've got a young man near us that bought one, and well, he missed the target on 4 fields
I think y'all are
of
missing the
morning
point.
glory.
That's more the video game part of it. But when you're talking about herbicide applications, and a lot of our stuff is herbicides, you just can't throw somebody out there who's good at playing a video game.
Well, no, what I'm what
And
I'm talking what I'm talking about is kids coming back to the farm. This is kids that were raised on a farm, went to college. They want to come back to the operation, but maybe the operation isn't big enough to satisfy a salary, with just them doing the standard corn, beans, and wheat. And you're looking at other enterprise. You're looking at stacked enterprises where the farmers that are in their 50, 40s, 50s, 60s, I even know a grandparent that runs an operation. He bought his grandson a drone. But I mean, they've got experience. They've got ag experience mixing chemistry and fertility and in sprayers and spreaders, but they're just going to be applying that in a drone.
yeah, well, that's a little different. But the first you said, "Oh, kids coming back that play video games," I said, "Oh, there's more to this than just playing a video game." But anyway, all right. So I'm at a lockdown. I got to come back outside and sit in my vehicle, so we can talk about, I guess, the topic or the show tonight, which is cotton, is
Yep,
what I understand.
now, real quick, Perry, before we go on, I do have one question.
Okay.
How much has all this rain affected you coming into the planting in the 2025 season?
So right or wrong, I have not planted a thing. This weather phenomenon was forecast a week or 10 days in advance. So we spent all our time getting fields ready. We brought acres into production that had been out for several years just because they've been wet at planting time. So we were really dry. We didn't have a rain for over 3 weeks. So we worked on the ends of our fields, the bottoms of our fields. We worked on mud holes. We got everything just perfect. Did any tillage we need to do. So we are ready to plant. So I've got 8,000 acres that all we need is seed and the planter run across it. So hopefully that may be tomorrow even. I know 13 to 16 inches of rain less than a week ago, but we've had some nice sunshiny days with some wind. I think we can plant.
So you're not getting any out of this that we're getting tonight?
There's a chance, but I think it's missed us, actually.
Y'all got lucky. We got it coming tonight and more cold weather after that for a couple of days.
We're pretty, if we can get through tonight, and I think there's a 40% chance of rain. But if I looked at the radar right a while ago, it may have already skirted past us.
It's past y'all. It's already over Alabama and Georgia.
There were some showers that popped.
Did we lose him, Brandon?
We lost him. Perry. Yeah, it looks like you're fixing to get rain, Russell.
Yeah, we got about 2/10 today, and they're calling for about 6-8 tenths tomorrow. So our weekend start is definitely out of the question. Depends on if we get sunshine and wind. We might get back out Monday, but maybe Tuesday.
Yeah. No, this is not a recording. We are reading comments.
I can't see them. Oh, there they are. All right. Renegade Farmer. Man, I'm telling you, I'm seeing a bunch of guys this year that are buying drones that are 1,000, 2,000 acre farms. I mean, that ain't what I would consider, you know, just the big farms.
No, it's not, and it's a lot of people that have smaller fields.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not trying to say that one's better than the other, but I think there becomes a day and time, especially with the extended range on these repeaters and how they're setting up these RTK base stations. Drones are able to get over a mile long fields. And
Perry, you ran away from us.
Is he back?
Am I back? Yeah.
Oh, you're back.
I had a phone call. So tell me something. I had a phone call and blinked on me, and I ignored the phone call, but it knocked me off. Is there a correct way to do that? To ignore a phone call and stay on? Or are you gonna kick me off?
You'd have to put it on do not disturb.
Oh,
I do that, but now wait a minute. I do that, still get disturbed. Oh wait, I am disturbed.
Well, anyway.
Now, Perry, you guys,
yeah.
What's y'all's?
Hold on. Let me get back on this drone deal. So
Here you go. Okay.
No, I'm just saying I've got 3 drones myself, and I use them. I think they're a very valuable tool. I really do. We use herbicides, insecticides, fungicides. Do a lot of work with them, and I've had them in 20-acre fields, and I've had them in 400-acre fields. So anyway, I just want to clarify that I'm not anti-drone at all. Matter of fact, I did a presentation at the Cotton and Rice Conference back in January and told these ag planes quit worrying about these drones. They're not gonna put them out of business, because they're more specialized than that at this point. So that's, and I may change my opinion next week, but right now, pro drone, and I think they've definitely got a place.
So Perry, I got a question for you.
So anyway, what was the other subject? What was the subject we were on? The weather, the planning, I forget.
Soil temperature.
Heck, we're 80-something degrees. We're fine.
Russell, what's yours
I don't know
looking
what it
like
is.
right now?
I'd say
It's,
low to mid 60s on mine.
we had guys planting corn here March 15th, which is unreal. And we've had 2 frost, and they're calling for mid 30s again. So I mean, you get here in the mountains and some of these little lower spots. I mean, we had frost on the windshields the other day. But I mean, we're getting enough sunshine that soil temps are ready. Soil temps have been ready to plant for 3 weeks.
Well, we've got corn. We've got corn that goes anywhere from 2 to 8 inches tall right now.
Really?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we had wind got us on rye on some of our wheat and rye the other day in a bad way, but it happened.
So Perry,
Put it down, lodged.
Completely on the ground, about 400
Man,
acres, less than an acre, less than a tenth of an acre per acre left standing.
wow.
Perry, I got a question
All right.
on the drone deal.
Yep.
How do you think it changes it when it has an automatic docking station that charges it, fills it, and mixes all your chemistry, and you're not there?
So almost completely autonomous.
No, 100% autonomous. It could be on a trailer or hooked up to a power at a pivot, but essentially, just say you had 4 different. Just let's say you're running a fungicide, insecticide, and uh, potassium acetate. You could put all 3 of those shuttles out there. It meters, mixes, fills up,
Well,
recharges,
now
takes off.
that's a game changer. That's a game changer. I know the FAA is not going for that at this point.
Yeah, they actually
Uh,
have. They actually have where you don't have to be. You can do beyond line of sight. It's an exemption.
and no one even monitoring the loading the loading area, the launch zone, any of that stuff. Just put it out there and let
Well,
it work 24/7.
well, I mean, you got to look.
It,
Walmart's drones are autonomous.
so is Amazon's new ones that they're sending off the delivery trucks 5 miles out. So yeah, I mean 24/7 could be an option if you also got your nighttime exemption.
You know,
Uh,
I'm sure they're still having it at some of these farm shows, but there was a solar powered, basically an autonomous spray rig. You just put it out in the field, and it has maybe a see and spray type thing on it, and it worked 24/7. Just it didn't go very fast, and it had a narrow boom. I forget 12 or 20 foot maybe,
Well,
and it just. I forget who made it, but I put it down that I wanted to see a demo, or when they got further along, let me
one of
know.
our admins on Farm Life runs sod, and they have not one but 6 autonomous tractors that run around the clock.
and that's
I know it's coming. I mean it's here. I mean, I've seen some of
Yeah,
that
but
stuff.
that you can't replace. You cannot replace human activity. And yes, you're doing away with human stupidity in some cases, but you still got to have the human factor in a lot of the cases.
Yes.
His autonomous tractors, if a bird lands in front of him, will stop and send him a message that there's a buzzard in the field. And the tractor will not run again. And he may be watching now and he'll add in. But the tractor will sit there and idle until you come remove the buzzard.
that's awesome.
He
And
can't
we
so he
all know
can't
how many buzzards we have in fields.
he can't override it and say ignore or something like that.
It has cameras all the way around it, and I don't know if he can or not, Perry. He hasn't said.
I've seen some of that. I've never seen them actually. I've seen demonstrations. I've never seen one actually working like that. And yeah, that's interesting.
They're
Perry,
And all the
actually
stuff I've seen still has a cab, so it could be driven conventionally
well.
or
These all have cabs on them, and when they get done mowing the fields or whatever they're doing, they'll go to the road and they stop and wait to be moved to the next field. You have to actually drive it to the next field.
yeah. I'd like to see that. sure would.
But they're neat tractors.
Yeah.
They remove the human stupidity factor quite well.
It's been
No,
5 years ago because I was in New York for my mother's 80th birthday party, and they had it was a cabless case tractor there,
I've seen
and
that one.
it was autonomous. They had to sit in front of Wall Street, the trading where the bull is, sitting right next to the bull. It was an autonomous case tractor with no cab. But the actual demos I've seen are John Deere, and they have a cab, and someone's actually sitting in the cab, but they're holding their hands up, so they're not touching any controls, just doing his thing.
yeah, his are all Kubotas and Deere. He just,
Really?
I think he just had his first couple of Deers done, and he's texting me now.
Well, Perry, how was y'all's
Hey,
input prices for the beginning of the season? Y'all see a steady or a gain or a little bit of decline in pricing, or
I don't think things have changed much. Glyphosate's down a little bit, maybe equal. There's been a few products that are.
Atrazine has come down.
I hadn't even heard an atrazine price. What are y'all hearing?
it's
Uh,
14, 15 a gallon?
oh,
That's pretty good.
anybody want to buy any from me?
I mean, what you got? I'll get some from you if it's cheaper.
$11.
4L.
For atrazine.
Throw it on my pallet.
Hey,
Miles,
so you started out by saying atrazine, and then you cut out. You're saying atrazine has gone down in price. It sounds like to me it has.
yes, it has.
Okay, sounds like it's down 25% almost.
Yeah, it's
Is that
down
about
a
right?
fair amount. Miles, if
Yeah.
you hear this, you heard what Russell said.
Yes, go ahead and fill that humic and all that stuff I'm getting. Just go ahead and fill that pallet up with some 4L. Perry, I'm gonna
Hey,
tell you, I have seen some products, and I know some people that sell products that are absolutely full of it. Now, Brandon still may be full of it, but you need to try some of his. You need to try some of his humate he got. It's pretty
we
slick.
got to get on the same. Yeah, we got to get on the same page with y'all. I need to get on the same page with y'all. So, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
Brandon, I'll give you a call. We'll get something really going in the next few weeks.
Yep, that'll work. That'll
Okay.
work perfect.
Let's talk about cotton because I'm about to have to go back in the hospital.
Yep.
So
Let's talk about cotton. Let's talk about where you were at last year. We were looking. We were looking at the video, looking at it earlier.
Yep.
You were looking at some decent nodes. You had some decent bowl activity.
Yeah.
It
See,
looked like.
I haven't seen the podcast or the show, so I don't know what we're even doing. So, what am I doing? And maybe I'll remember.
Spraying cotton and going over cotton and talking about your cotton.
Were we spraying with drones?
Yes.
Okay. So that was that was full bloom. I feel like, if I remember right,
Yeah, it was. It
that
was.
cotton was waist high, and we were putting on, I'm sure, insecticide for probably plant bugs, and putting on growth regulators.
I tell you,
And
it was nice looking cotton.
I think we had some PGRs in there too. Probably a 2-1-1 ratio of a cytokine and jibs and whatever the
oxen.
third one, auxin. Yeah. So 2 cytokines, one jib, one auxin is usually the mixes I use. It's possible I was just putting out a straight cytokine. I can't remember, but that and a little foliar fertility with some potassium acetate. I mean, that's what we did the majority of. We put out it wasn't a 888. It was oh gosh, I forget what it was. But anyway, it had some potassium acetate in it. Maybe a little bit of sulfur. I can't remember.
Russell, do y'all have much problem with white flies?
No, it ain't been a bad problem for us.
What about you, Perry? Have you had a white fly problem in your
Not
cotton?
not last year. I feel like a lot of our plant bug materials are controlling the white flies. The when we use transform or the imidacloprid, I believe that ought to controlling white flies. I don't. I remember going out to the field with someone uneducated. And I mean, I'm using that loosely, but didn't know what they were looking at. They said, "What are all these white bugs?" And I said, "Those are white flies," but they never materialized. You know how you just walk up to a plant and just swarm of those things fly out of there? It
Yeah.
was like that, but it was not across the whole field. It was on the end or the turn row or something. And my friend touched the plant and said, "Ooh, what's all this?" And I says, "White flies." But we never treated white flies last year.
Now, did you have much trouble last year with thrips when your cotton come out of the ground? Or we had a massive problem with them last year.
So seed treatment will hold it for a couple of weeks usually, unless you get a lot of rain and it's pretty water soluble and it'll go away prematurely. And then you do have to treat your thrips. I don't remember treating them more than once though.
We only hit ours one time, but they hit us hard.
Yeah, I'm really proud of my consultant. I mean, he never lets anything get by. I'm an old cotton farmer, so back before we had good chemistry like we do now, we were really struggling to control stuff. So I don't like taking a chance letting getting things out of control. So
I
I'll go a
understand.
little early I'll go a little early if I have to, but I don't remember. I was fussing a little bit about using the higher price chemistries for the plant bugs, but after the yields we made and after the nodes and positions we held, I think he was making the right call.
Nothing wrong
So,
with that. Well, guys, let's
looking back, hindsight's 2020, but I was like, my gosh, we just spent $25 an acre on these things, spraying these bugs. We can do something cheaper. And they said, I don't know. We don't want to let them get out of control. And the corn plus the cotton, that's the questionable, neighboring fields. Because as the corn's drying down, here comes all the bugs out of the corn into the
yep.
cotton, and that cotton's just ripe for all the piercing, sucking insects. I mean, the cotton's just right for the piercing, sucking insects coming out of the corn. So, you know, we had our guard up and we did a good job controlling. And those drones, again, I don't want to double back on drones. They helped a lot because if we just had one field, say next to the corn, it was really easy to get a drone out and pre-mix a couple hundred acres worth of chemistry and go take care of it in a matter of half a day or
Yeah.
less. So that's why I say, man, these things are great.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
They absolutely are.
and
And
again, nothing against the plane, but I'll go through the process. Say we were irrigating, so it's wet, we can't get a ground rig in it. And I've got 2 ground rigs, and we use those. We run those things a lot. But by the time calling the plane, and maybe the plane couldn't do it that morning. I don't know. There's all kinds of scenarios that that might not have worked out with the plane. If as timely as we
I'll, now,
accomplish it with the drone. Just
I'll,
get the
I'll
drone
tell you
out,
this.
mix the stuff up, and in an hour's time you're flying, and 3 hours later you're finished.
Now,
There's a place
I'll
that
tell you
fits, and
what,
if it does, it's good.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
what's been the most
that's
helpful with us has been whether we're banding just a small strip on the field or whether we're hitting some of these real narrow, nasty fields. See, we don't have the luxury of decent fields. We have several fields. We probably have 300 or 400 acres in fields that are only about 50 yards wide, not very
yeah,
wide. You got 4 passes at a planter and you're done.
yeah. That'd drive a pilot crazy.
It does. Our pilot, and he's probably listening because he texted me a while ago.
Yeah,
There are some expletives I get texted when he is spraying some fields.
I bet.
So, well, let's get this wonderful cotton footage running for the night, Perry.
All right, we
And
starting?
we start.
All right, well, I'm going to jump off. Good to see y'all. Good
Yep.
to visit. Enjoy the show, but I'm going to slip back in here and see my friend.
Go back in there and we'll get this. Have a great night, Perry, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, take care. Goodbye.
All right, bye. And here we go. We'll roll that footage.
It's time for new season top crop. The health of our soil is going to contribute to us making money.
I call it turning trash into cash.
I'm still looking for big wins.
I think it looks good. Here we are in a cotton field. I'm gonna stop right here because this is some cotton. It's had a little water on, plus we've had some decent rains. This is some non-irrigated cotton, so let me get this is about node 9 or 10. It's got 1 bowl, 2 bowls, 3 bowls, a square for a 4th bowl on that node. So my point is, if we've got 15 nodes or more in cotton, fruiting nodes, then and they hold this first bowl, this first position, you know, we're looking at probably a 2-bale cotton crop. And you know, 2 bales at the current prices probably won't pay the bill, so we need 2.5 to 3 even. But it's not a cheap crop to raise. So anyway, we've got squares, which is the beginning of the fruit, and then that'll turn into, I call a lipstick bloom. Let me see if I can find one. Extremely early bloom where it's just looks like maybe white lipstick, and then it'll open up into a white bloom such as this one, and then in a day or two the bloom will, well, the next day it'll be a pink bloom like this, and then this is another day it'll start drying up till you get something like this, and it was attached right here to this little baby cotton boll. And that's where the cotton is that everyone's familiar with, whether it's in a t-shirt, a dress shirt, or a bottle of aspirin. That's where the cotton comes from. It'll be inside this. And I picked this one earlier because it's a little more mature, and I'm taking a knife and cutting it, and there is some resistance, so there's some fiber in there. So as I cut into this, you can start to see the fiber forming inside the cotton. And inside the bowl, this was just a 4-lock bowl, man. It had 4 different pieces, so it's quartered. It'll open up. The cotton will be there to fluff out. Well, inside of not only the cotton or the lint is the seed. There's a piece of an immature seed right there. So it is the lint that they make the fiber, the t-shirts, the yarn, is just an extension and elongation of the seed. So it's attached to the seed. And then the gin, and hopefully later on we'll have some episodes where we actually go to the gin, see how the seed and the trash is removed from what we harvest out of the field, and then it'll go into the mill to be processed into yarn, they call it, which will end up in a t-shirt. So we had to do a lot of cotton. Everybody kind of makes fun of us because we fertilize it and then we put PGRs on it to regulate its growth. And the whole idea behind that is to shorten up the nodes. Like right here, these are just 2 inches apart. That one's probably 2.5. There's one that's 3. So, you know, if we can keep it 2 to 3 nodes, which, you know, should be chest high or lower at harvest or at maturity, then it just makes and holds more fruit. It stays more reproductive than vegetative. We don't want to let it get too vegetative because it will get way tall. It'll get taller than I am, so it'll get over 6'2", and you don't really want that because it won't have much fruit, bowls, or fiber in it to harvest and ultimately sell. Well, I like a population of around 40,000, so we may plant 41, 42,000 seed in hopes to get 40. Cotton can be hard to get out of the ground, and it doesn't have a lot of vigor or pushing power, but if you ever get it up and get it established, it's hard to kill. we'll apply a defoliant, get the leaves off. It doesn't kill the plant, it just makes the leaves fall off. And on top of that, we'll put something in there that kind of stops the growth of the plant, because when you harvest, you want the leaves out of the way. So we'll put something on to make the leaves drop, and then we'll put on synthetic ethylene, or epthalon, which is when you have a banana, you see a banana at your home or at the store that has the brown spots on it, that's the ethylene coming out. So we'll put on a synthetic ethylene, and it will cause the bolls to open. A lot of time these little purple specks like that, that's not a mature boll, but that purple speck, I think is the ethylene starting to come out, because right before the bolls open, they'll be pretty much a deep purple colored and kind of soften up, and then they open up, expose the fiber so we can harvest it. So yeah, population, high 30s, low 40s is what I usually shoot for. This is a skip row pattern out here. I referenced a lipstick bloom earlier. Here's one right here. So that will probably open into a white flower tomorrow. And prior to that, it's just a square. But you can see that center part in a few days will look like that, and then it'll turn open to a white bloom. And the next day it'll be a purple bloom. And the day after that, it'll be a kind of a dried purple bloom, which is easily removed, then further dried, and then underneath it a bowl.
Another thing that we're doing, the sugars, octane. We gotta have that sugar. We gotta have the kelpine for the stress mitigation. And then the big one, something we found out just 2 years ago, we've been toying with, and we found it consistent. Onward Max, 6.5 ounces. And let me tell you, the trials that we ran with that, there's a reason why it's going on every single acre of our corn.
Making some applications to some cotton, so we've got a product from Fish Head fish manure. We use a lot of manures around the farm for fertility, and I know the fish manure has a lot of added benefits. We're gonna put it in one of our mixes. It's an organic soil conditioner, and we're gonna use it at foliar at 20 ounces to the acre. We're gonna do it twice. We're really looking forward to just more food for the biology. Get it irrigated in. We're looking forward to some good results. So greetings, welcome to Top Crop. I'm Perry Galloway. Today is August the 2nd, and we're out here in the field. We're doing a little land farming too. This is kind of what I refer to as a regrade. Just moving a little dirt around to make this thing drain and or irrigate. So got 3 machines running out here coming up behind me. Maybe they won't hit me, but that's all we're doing out here. It goes pretty fast on a regrade. When we get finished here, this field will drain and irrigate pretty close to perfectly. So that's what we're going after, is more efficiency in our operation. So with this land farming, we're setting these fields up for perfect drainage and irrigation. So this particular field we're standing in will be ideal for rice as a primary crop, but it also will drain well enough for a crop of soybeans. So this field is about 90 acres, and it'll go rice or soybeans, or possibly any other crops, but more than likely rice or soybeans. The other 3 fields that surround us, they're what we call zero grade. In other words, they are flat as a pool table. There is no drainage. There's some exterior ditches around it, so the water would just basically either soak in or possibly settle out to the edges, but it will not drain a certain direction. So they are almost exclusively for rice production. If you get them dry enough to plant the rice, then all you have to do is fertilize it, and of course kill the weeds, grass, put some water on it. So those zero grade fields will not have any levees. I get questions all the time about levees and or paddies in rice. What are they? Why are they like that? So they are to stair step the water levels. Think of it like a bathtub. If you have the bathtub full of water, by the drain it might be 10 inches deep. Up the other end where your head would be, it might not be but 4 inches deep. So to keep it all 4 inches deep, you'd have to put a barricade or a levee, in the case of a rice field, to stair step the drainage of the water, or the flows of the water, or the depth of the water in the paddies. We're out in the middle of this cornfield, and this is just regular old corn. I was out here yesterday kind of checking the moisture, and I think we're a week away from harvest. Of course, a little dried, so when I say we're a week away, we'll probably harvest at 25% moisture. Usually come out of the dryer at 16.4. So they're pretty nice ears. Population of the ears is in the mid 30s, 34 and a half, 35. Like I said, this is just regular production. August the 3rd today, and we're talking about harvesting corn in a week. So that'd be the 10th. Usually the earliest we've been harvesting was around the 15th. So we're early. I've said all season long we've been a week to 2 weeks early. Corn looks good though. These, I don't even know what these are. These are 18 around, 30, 35. Here's one right here. Another 18 around, mid 30s on the length. Yeah, GDUs, we had an incredibly hot June. We were drouthy from the end of May through, we got one of the better rains of my farming career on June the 17th. We were desperate for moisture. It was hot. It went from really, really wet and 85 degrees to 100 degrees and no rain in sight for over 2 weeks, closed it in on 3 weeks. Then on June the 17th, we got 2.5 inch rain, saved the day, took a lot of pressure off the guys and myself. It's kind of automatic, you know, we know what to do. But when it goes from wet and relatively cool to hot and dry in a matter of days, it really puts the pressure on to get this stuff irrigated and keep it alive. So yeah, corn looks good. We irrigated right through the hard time for about 3 weeks, and then we've been getting nice rains since then. Turned off dry now, but that's fine. It'll be good for harvest. I think this moisture, we're right at black layer now, so it's somewhere in that 32, 33%. In a week's time, if we lose, and we're gonna be in the mid 90s all week, we should lose 3/4 of a point a day. So in 10 days, it'd be 7.5%, so that'd put us down to 25. We'll do a slow start or a soft start, 27, 28, just to make sure everything's working up at our granary, our elevator. I'd say we had a wet July, probably twice the moisture we normally get in July. But June was really low, and August looks dry. There's no rain in the forecast for the next 2 weeks, mid to upper 90s, so it'll be gone. Last rain we had was last Saturday. We had about 1 inch late one afternoon, so it was welcome. The irrigation expense, if we can get keep the irrigation expense down, that's big. I think, rough calculations, when we're irrigating, and I don't know how many wells, I've got 120 or more. In fuel alone, that's electricity and diesel, it's about $25,000 a day. So you can imagine how happy I am when it rains.
In the past 3 years, we're 365 GDUs behind schedule. So that is one of our concerns here. You know, if we don't have solar, we don't have GDUs, we don't have photosynthesis, we don't have energy into that plant. So that's where, when you guys approached about Architect and being able to add that on at that V5 time frame, I was really excited for it. Definitely looks like it's doing its job here. I'm excited to take it to yield and see if we can't get it on every acre next year.
So this is Organics with deep injection. This is Organics with dry over the top. And it should be 18 rows to the next flag. And this is our Organics with dry fertilizer broadcast. The plant health is definitely better. We're seeing the first lower leaf is starting to stress a little bit. Here we might have been 1 or 2 leaves below the ear leaf that's already started to drop off and brown up. So I mean, the crop stress is a lot less where we had the Organics.
Years ago when I started farming cotton, and remember I hadn't farmed cotton in 12 years. This is my first year back in a while, but when I first started farming cotton, it was $50 a bag, and we thought that was high. Now it's, I don't know how much it costs, $600 a bag, $700 a bag. You can get 5 or 6 acres out of it. So yeah, you need to stretch that seed just as far as you can. It's a big expense, just a seed. Now, the seed we have today versus the seed we had 25, 30 years ago when I first started doing this was a lot of technology in the seed. insect resistance, herbicide resistance, it just goes on and on. Cotton, these plants even amaze me how much cotton is actually in the field. When I see it open up, I can say, yeah, that's not a very good cotton field, but it continues to surprise me how much cotton's actually there. And a lot of it has to do with the lint to seed ratios. And that's probably something we need to say for the gin. When we go to the gin, we'll talk about that here in 6 weeks or so. We'll talk about how much seed cotton, which means seed out of the field, it takes to actually make a bale of pure cotton for, again, fabric or an aspirin bottle. This is not really fully irrigated. This would be irrigated. Maybe we can look down in there and see what we got. I don't know if you can look down in there and see where we pull this back and look at all the bowls. We're looking at 2 plants. So cotton is competitive, it will compensate. The cost of growing an acre of cotton versus other crops, probably the closest comparison would be corn. It's gonna be more expensive than corn. It probably rivals rice in production costs, because with rice you have a lot of irrigation, continuous irrigation cost, and as well as herbicide costs. Cotton, insects love cotton. This bowl that I cut open earlier, if I found a real immature one, like this one, it's the size of, say, a quarter, and I'll cut it open. It shouldn't be in resistance here because the fiber's not mature yet. So yeah, so it just sliced right through that. And that's wet. If I touch it, it's got a sweet taste to it. So the insects love it, the raccoons love it, the deer hadn't quite figured it out, but the insects is a big issue. We're always having to be on guard for insects and treat insect populations. I guess IPM, insect pest management, we don't over-treat and put out unnecessary pesticides in the atmosphere or in the food or the fabric. And these pesticides we put out now, insecticides, are so much safer than they were years ago. Most of these insecticides act on specific parts of a insect's reproductive system, nervous system, and that's what controls them. Where years ago, it was just harsh chemistry that killed insects, and it also kill you. We're away from that now. What are those lines through the rice fields? Or why are those things curved? Or why is this field curved and this one straight? Or this one are real far apart and these aren't so far apart? So it all has to do with changes in elevation, whether land formed like we're doing here, or the way God made it with natural elevations. It all has to do with controlling that water from the top of the field to the bottom of the field. The United States raises 3% of the rice in the world, and 90% of the 3% is raised in Arkansas. So Arkansas is a big rice country. So we always talk about our rice crops and our rice markets and the things that make or break that. But in reality, it's a specialty crop just to this area. I mean, there's rice fields everywhere, so I see it every morning, every night when I go home. I've got my own, I'm used to it. But when people come in, even ag people come in and say, hey, I want to see a rice field, I've never seen one before. So it's a big deal for some people to see a rice field, even though we see it every day. I've never seen a field of beets that I knew what it was. So I know that some of the northern states that raise a lot of beets, it's an everyday occurrence.
Choose your herbicide. Choose your pest protection. Choose AgVenture. The latest trait technologies featuring the power of the Enlist weed control system, plus the quality and service you know and trust. Produce more bushels with 4-seed Enlist and PowerCore Enlist corn from AgVenture. Visit agventure.com/corn traits to get a whole farm solution with the latest corn traits.
We want the bottom canopy to be healthy with a good fungicide. We use Revitec on it. It's really going to help that bean finish off strong.
Beans are coming right along. We've used Revitec and Reviloc for our soybean fungicide, and we've used Revitec for years. Probably absent of disease just because we've got the Revitec out here, but just mainly for the plant health.
We think we got a pretty good chance here to throw up a pretty big number. It'll be interesting to see.
I'm standing at the edge of a rice field that's, the stage here is fully headed. Matter of fact, it's real close to maturity. Within 10 days, this rice will be mature enough to terminate any additional irrigation, and then roughly 2 weeks after that, it'll be ready for combine. So this particular rice is a long grain rice. That's what we consume in the United States, long grain. We do have some medium grain production, which is used a lot in I think cereals, and then the short grain rice, that's more the Asian market. But here in the United States, we raise primarily long grain and some medium grain. And then it blooms, and it's pollinated, and then of course the blooms fall off, and the seed will start forming inside. The seeds beginning to form. It starts at the base, fills with the milk, and the milk, basically the sugars of the plant, and then I don't know, as it matures, it thickens up, and then ultimately leads to a hard seed.
All right, so guys, I am Gunther Krebs. About 3 years ago, my wife Andrea and I came up with an idea about doing something special for our local Rossville FFA chapter. We are both FFA alum. In fact, my wife and I met at a leadership camp in Trafalgar, Indiana, back in the late 90s, right? So mid 90s, late 90s, somewhere in there. So it's a long time ago, a lot longer than when you students have been around. So FFA is very near and dear to our hearts. We have a lot of passion for helping people out and giving kids an opportunity to see what jobs are in agriculture, right, off the farm. I grew up on a farm north of Warsaw, Indiana, near Syracuse. And I'm the youngest of 3 boys, and as traditional Midwest agriculture, the youngest of 3 boys has to go to college or go somewhere and find a job and figure it out. So my parents sent me to Purdue, and I ended up working for a company called Ag Explorer, now one of the owners in AgX. So I spend my weeks, got wheels or wings will travel, right? So I spend a lot of time on the road, but part of what we love to do at our company is to give back to communities. And be involved in local communities and give people an opportunity to experience the jobs that are out there. So today is about that. For those of you that were here to experience the helicopter coming in, that was an awesome way to make an entrance. I wish I could do that at meetings. I can't. But today we've got 8 brave students that are here that are going to be presenting today on things that it takes behind the scenes to go into farming, right? It's not as simple as just going and getting the planter out, planting it, spraying it, and forgetting it, right? So there's a lot of things that go into it. And we have some industry professionals that are with us from the FSA office that I'll introduce in a second that are going to join us and talk about what they do to support agriculture here in Clinton County and in Indiana.
Mine was about like the traits of the soybean and how that kind of goes along well with the soil that you have in your field. That was super interesting to me, and getting to present to that to people in my community was really special.
I didn't understand the depth that we look at plants and how they grow and how we can influence that to reduce stress, increase yield, and those kinds of things. I never understood the scale at which you guys operate at Ag Explorer and those kinds of things, and the opportunities that those have. Through FFA and the Krebs family and all that, I've learned the extent that the ag community is and how big it actually can be.
I would love to go into soil science or something agronomy, because learning about the soybean seed specifically for this presentation was so interesting to me, and I was like, well, I can certainly make a career out of that if it's something I enjoy and if it's something that I'm good at.